Hello everyone, this is Myths and Magic, and welcome back to part 15 of the D&D story series in Campaign 1. Just as a quick preface, I would like to mention that videos may be more infrequent from now on. I'm still deciding on whether I want to do once a month or keep it going with once per every 2 weeks. And it's mainly due to the fact that I have some future plans for the channel and some side projects that I might want to pursue that are to do with all of this as well. And now that I have that message out of the way, just sit back, relax, and enjoy. Together, Ronarth and Augustus barreled into Arto and Osric. Yellow godly lightning crackled into Osric, while Ronarth's axe swung in a furious arc at Arto. The bear fought empty-handed and unarmed, save for his claws. Osric splayed his talons and cast spells with balls of fire and beams of energy erupting towards the fighting duo. "Go, I'll hold them off," Augustus shouted as he held off the onslaught. Ronarth dashed over to the tree where Freya was tied up. Grabbing his silver dagger, he cut the bindings around Freya's chafed wrists and ankles. Helping him up with his hand, Freya stood. "Thank you," he said. "Keep them off me a bit. I'll find my stuff." The two separated and Ronarth re-entered the fight. Freya scurried around, gathering his belongings, including his staff, necklaces, bracelets, rings, satchel, and finally his tome of infinite pages. Thankfully, his fears of Osric stealing his possessions had been quenched. All of his stuff was intact and for the most part untouched. And now it was time to face his pompous magic-using adversary. He came into the fight swinging and hitting hard. Screaming as he charged, bolts of fire and energy erupted from his hands, pushing Osric and Arto back against one of the rocky faces of the clearing. The anthropomorphic eagle counterattacked with magic of his own, to which Ronarth splayed his hands. His crown of ice glowed a bright blue light, and a wall of ice shot upwards from the ground, blocking the spell. However, quickly dashing around the wall with his surprising dexterity, Arto swept Freya in his big meaty paws and chucked him hard, as if he were his weightless plaything. For a moment Freya felt light, until he was greeted with the unpleasant sudden crash against his back. He was thrown against the top of one of the caves, so hard that when he fell to the ground, the entrance caved in, and Freya was met with a wall of rock, with only sheds of sunlight shining through the top of the pile. Meanwhile outside, the fighting continued. Strikes were dealt back and forth, but they had no counter against Osric. He was a wild card. Most times when an enemy of magic prowess faced them, usually Freya dealt with them, such as Glassstaff. While Augustus had the capability to cast spells, he was slightly more limited in his abilities, and preferred to use a sword or mace as his weapon of choice. From inside, the fighting could be heard. Turning back, he saw no way out, only darkness and shadow. Eventually, Freya came up with a plan. He opened up his tome of infinity and flicked to a set of pages he had prepared before. He found it. Pages and pages with a hole cut in each one of them. The tome itself was huge and lengthways was about the shoulder width of a man of slim build. While it would be cramped, he would still be able to fit inside. Before he entered, he waved his hand and casted a spell, Mage Hand. A floating spectral hand appeared before him in a blue light, which he was in control of. He crawled inside and shut the book. Using the Mage Hand, he felt around until he grabbed a hold of the book. The physics of the book were strange. In the physical plane, the book weighed like a normal, unsuspecting tome despite its contents. Thus the hand lifted the book and heaved it over the pile of rocks and dropped it to the ground. He popped out of the book haphazardly and stumbled around until recollecting himself. He closed the book and got back in the fight. The combat continued until finally both of the bounty hunters were killed. Freya had incinerated Osric, and the other two felled Arto. For a while, they sat around in their camp, disposing of the bodies, regathering supplies from the old camp, and resting, until finally they've entered a large cave in the clearing. Freya reckoned this was the entrance to the mine, hence why the bounty hunters had guarded it. The mine had multiple strands and splitting off, and after some exploration, they eventually came across a very special room. Before, it had just been rock faces and edges of stone, but now they entered a place where the valley of the mine was clearly visible. It was a room with large crystals jutting from the earth. They had reflected like the night sky, but had a purple haze to them. They looked wondrous and magnificent to especially Freya, so he took some, just in case he could sell them or use them for some sort of purpose. Clearly civilization had lied here before. There were bridges and some pathways as well. Being under the mountains, it was vast. The pathways opened and closed, showing large areas and clearings, and much more narrow and claustrophobic tunnels. Clearly there was a lot to explore, and so the group treaded on. Hello everyone. Today's miniatures of the week are my Lannister guardsmen. So I might have shown one or two of these before, but I would like to show them in full to you today. And I'm quite proud of these guys because before them I had never ever painted anything that was to do with the rank and flank game. And I thought with a couple of friends that I would try out a Song of Ice and Fire miniatures game, which you would have seen us play I think in episode 8 or 9. Since the miniatures are bigger, that have more surface area to work with, I really wanted to improve and up my game with these guys. So I used a lot of purple for the shadows, for the red cloaks, and eventually worked my way up to more brighter shades of red, all the way up to orange. I really enjoyed doing that sort of colour theory and working with weird underlayers and stuff like that. And I'm now painting some mountains men to go with this army, and I'm doing like a green, then yellow over top, which I'm quite excited about. But for being my first A Song of Ice and Fire miniatures, I'm quite proud of these guys, and I hope you enjoy them as well. Thank you for watching. As usual, I appreciate your continued support on this channel, so if you could like and subscribe, that would mean a lot to me. And I hope you enjoyed this episode today, and for now, I should be back producing more and more videos. And as usual, I'll see you in the next episode.